The chapel was desolate. I stood alone by my husband's coffin. Our son wasn't there. Our daughter was absent. Not a single grandchild braved the cold wind that swept the courtyard, as if the very weather refused to linger. The funeral director's gaze darted from the vacant pews to my face. "Shall we wait, Mrs. Holloway?" he asked, clearing his throat. "No," I stated. "Begin." George despised delays. He was a man of punctuality, even at the end. The story opens with profound solitude, establishing the central conflict of a final farewell dishonored by absence. I occupied the front row, a ring of empty chairs around me. The pastor's words were hollow, the flowers garish, the casket too gleaming. I could almost hear George's chuckle at the spectacle, then his inevitable question: where were the children? Peter's message that morning was a cold, one-line apology. Something came up. Our daughter Celia sent nothing at all. I pictured Peter on a golf course, burying his grief beneath business deals, treating his father's passing as a minor calendar conflict. The narrative deepens the emotional abandonment, contrasting the mother's stark reality with the children's casual indifference. Celia had left a voicemail days prior, her tone breezy and unconcerned. "Mom, I simply can't cancel my nail appointment," she'd said. "You know how I get about rescheduling. Tell Dad I'll visit next week," as if the departed keep a schedule. After the brief service, I walked behind the casket alone. I didn't cry. My grief was not fresh. It was a heavy, motionless anchor within me. That day I was already entombed by it. The cemetery was nearly empty, save for a lone groundskeeper watching from a distance. The daughter's shallow excuse highlights a profound selfishness, solidifying the mother's resolve amidst her deep, silent sorrow. The coffin was lowered. Quiet prayers were whispered into the wind. Soil met polished wood. I remained long after the small party departed, my heels sinking into the soft earth. A temporary plaque marked the spot. George Holloway, beloved husband, father, forgotten. That final word lodged in my mind, sharp and persistent. Back home, the silence was deafening. His recliner sat empty, his slippers perfectly aligned. I poured a glass of expensive wine, saved for company that never came, and scrolled through my phone, a knot of dread in my stomach. The word forgotten becomes a pivotal motif, fueling the protagonist's journey from grief to decisive action. Celia's social media profile was public. A photo from 2 hours ago showed her laughing with friends, cocktails in hand. The caption read, "Bottomless mimosas, living our best lives." Peter had posted too, a picture of a sunlit golf course, his new driver gleaming. Killer swing, perfect weather for closing deals. I stared until the screen blurred. I turned it off, drank my wine, and looked at our anniversary photo on the wall. George and I, standing by the rose bushes he'd planted. They were bare now. The social media posts serve as a brutal, final confirmation of their children's betrayal and misplaced priorities. Tomorrow, I resolved, I would call the lawyer. I would make changes with the quiet dignity George always embodied. If I was the only one who honored his final goodbye, I would be the only one to honor his true will. That evening, the kitchen's quiet roared. I remembered George peeling apples with surgical precision, offering me the piece with the most sunshine. Now the fruit bowl held only overripe pears, sagging under their own weight. The solitude of the last 2 weeks had been a teacher, but tonight its lesson was harsher. The resolution forms, rooted not in anger, but in a profound sense of justice and loyalty to her husband's memory. I replayed the empty chairs, Celia's voicemail, Peter's terse text. Had I failed as a mother? Or had they failed some essential part of their own humanity? Peter's message was devoid of warmth, just a flat rejection. Something came up. Was it shame, indifference, or a casual cruelty they didn't even recognize? I poured another glass, not for sorrow, but for clarity. I walked to our bedroom and opened George's desk drawer, my movements steady and purposeful. Behind the files was what I sought. The mother begins a painful introspection, questioning her role, yet moving decisively toward a concrete plan. I pulled a thin folder sealed with a rubber band. It was labeled Estate. Inside were copies of our will, beneficiary lists, and instructions for everything: the house, the car, the savings, even the antique clock from George's grandfather. It had all been prepared with care 2 years prior. Sitting on the bed, I opened it. Peter was a co-beneficiary of the main investment account, a lifetime's frugal savings. He and Celia were both named for the house and the lake cabin they never visited but always inquired about at tax time. The contents of the will reveal the extent of the inheritance, setting the stage for the monumental decision to come. Holding the pages, my fingers trembled not from age, but from a deeper, pulsing betrayal. I went to the closet and retrieved a bin of old photographs. There we were, a family. George holding the children, me laughing on the porch, Celia tugging my sleeve, Peter asleep in his father's lap. We were once a unit. Had I been blind to how far we'd drifted? Love doesn't always shatter. Sometimes it fades quietly, like wallpaper in the sun, until the pattern is unrecognizable. The family photos provide a poignant contrast to the present, emphasizing the erosion of familial bonds over time. I picked up a picture of George and a 12-year-old Peter fishing. George's arm was around our son, his smile full and soft. That man had deserved more than an empty chapel. I put the photo down and picked up the phone. It was nearly midnight, but I didn't hesitate. I called our lawyer, Thomas Fields. It went to voicemail. "Thomas, it's May Holloway," I said. "I need to revise my will. Call me first thing in the morning." I stood by the window, watching the moonlight on the barren rose bushes. A specific, happy memory of the father underscores the injustice of his lonely funeral, catalyzing the irreversible phone call. The lawyer's office smelled of old books and polish, a place where silence had weight. Thomas had known us for 30 years. He looked up as I entered, mild surprise on his face. "May," he said, buttoning his jacket. "You're here early." "It couldn't wait," I replied, settling into the leather chair. I'd pruned the dead roses that morning. The honest work of cutting back what no longer serves had steadied me. "I got your message," he said. "You want to revise your will?" "Yes," I said. "Remove Peter and Celia." "Entirely." The protagonist's calm determination is met with professional courtesy, beginning the formal legal process. Thomas paused, not in shock, but with care. "Are you certain?" I met his gaze. "I buried my husband alone. Our children didn't come. They were busy." I placed my hands calmly on his desk. "They don't deserve a dime." He gave a slow nod. "We'll draft a full amendment." "Remove them from every provision?" "Yes. The accounts, the house, the cabin, everything." He opened a legal pad. "Do you wish to redirect the assets?" I thought of my grandson, Ethan, the only one who ever visited without an agenda. The lawyer's question shifts the focus from punishment to legacy, introducing the potential heir who embodies genuine connection. Ethan had mowed my lawn in July simply because he thought I shouldn't be out in the heat. He brought me library books and valued my opinion. He'd once said, "Grandma, I like talking to you more than to people my age." "Yes," I told Thomas. "I want to set up a trust for Ethan. The house, the cabin, the remainder of the estate, structured carefully, protected from his parents' reach." "That can be arranged," he said professionally. "We would create an irrevocable trust, with access for education and healthcare until he turned 30. Ethan's past kindnesses are revealed, justifying his grandmother's choice and establishing him as a worthy inheritor. We spent an hour reviewing details, clause after clause. I didn't flinch. When you've buried your husband alone, legal documents hold no terror. Nothing trivial can touch you after that. As we finished, Thomas observed, "Most people your age want to forgive, to keep the peace." "I've kept the peace for 80 years, I said quietly. "It buried me long before it buried George." He asked no more questions. Leaving his office, the morning sun felt different on my face. I wasn't sad or angry. I was simply done. The protagonist's powerful statement reveals a lifetime of suppressed needs, marking a definitive end to her passive role. Done waiting for my children to become people they had no intention of being. Done mistaking duty for love. done writing checks with my heart and receiving only silence in return. My footsteps echoed as I walked to my car. I sat for a moment, watching people bustle by. A woman passed, holding her daughter's hand, sharing a laugh. I didn't envy them. I merely noted the scene, like a familiar song I no longer needed to hear. That night, I slept without the TV for the first time. The silence was still there, but it no longer hurt. This segment showcases the protagonist's newfound emotional liberation and acceptance of her solitary peace. I opened the file cabinet in the hall, the one labeled Family in George's block print. Inside were folders of receipts, copies of checks, and old letters, a paper trail of a lifetime of giving. I sat at the kitchen table with Celia's folder, a $15,000 check for her small wedding with chandeliers and a string quartet, a $7,800 transfer for a leaking roof, $12,000 for her son's braces, $20,000 when her husband was laid off. "You always save us," she'd whispered. I had believed her. The meticulous financial records provide tangible proof of the mother's lifelong support, contrasting sharply with her children's recent abandonment. Peter's folder was thicker, $25,000 for a startup that failed in 6 months, a used car, a down payment, graduate school tuition. I paid hospital bills for his children and wrote a check when he fell behind on taxes. Looking at the long list, I saw I had been their safety net, always willing to cushion their falls. They never once refused my help, but they refused to say goodbye to their father. That was a debt no check could ever cover. I put the files away, keeping only one envelope marked Ethan. The accounting solidifies the moral imbalance, framing the disinheritance not as punishment, but as a cessation of a one-sided arrangement. Inside was a note Ethan wrote at age 11 in sloppy pencil. "Grandma May, thank you for teaching me to make pancakes. I think you are very wise and funny. One day, I will take care of you like you take care of me." I held the paper for a long time. He was 19 now. I didn't know if he remembered, but I did. I had always tried to be fair, to divide things equally. But what if fairness wasn't about sameness? What if it was about giving your legacy to the one who saw you as a person, not a bank? Ethan's childhood note serves as emotional currency, validating the grandmother's decision as an act of true fairness. The call came in the afternoon. "Grandma?" "It's Ethan." I closed the ledger I was reviewing. "Hello, darling? Is everything all right?" A pause. "I heard about Grandpa. I'm sorry I didn't call sooner." I waited, needing to hear the truth in his words. "Mom never told me he was gone. She just said he was sick." I sat very still. "He passed almost 3 weeks ago, Ethan." "I know," he whispered. "I'm sorry." In his silence, I heard real grief, the kind that can't be fabricated. Ethan's call introduces a glimmer of hope and genuine connection, confirming he was kept in the dark by his own mother. He arrived an hour later, taller than I remembered. He hugged me tentatively, then fully when I didn't pull away. We sat in the living room. "I missed the funeral," he said, anguish in his voice. "I'll never forgive myself." "You weren't the one who chose to miss it," I said gently. He looked at me. "Did Mom really not come?" I nodded. He stared at his hands. "She told me they had work, that it was handled." After a silence, I rose and brought him the manila envelope containing the trust papers. The face-to-face meeting confirms Ethan's character and his shared sense of loss, building trust before the revelation of the inheritance. He opened the folder, his brow furrowing. "Grandma, what is this?" "My plan," I said simply. "This is everything, the house, the cabin, the savings." "But why me?" His voice cracked. "Why not Mom or Uncle Peter?" I could have listed their failures, but I chose a simpler truth. "Because you're the only one who came back without being called." He set the papers down gently. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," I told him. "Just remember who you are and what real love looks like." His eyes grew wet. The bequest is presented not as a reward, but as a natural consequence of Ethan's inherent character and actions. Celia arrived the next morning, tires crunching on the gravel. She walked in without knocking. "Mom, I've been trying to reach you," she said, dropping her bag. "I've been busy," I replied, not looking up from folding laundry. "Busy with what?" she scoffed. I didn't answer. "Is it true?" she demanded. "You're changing your will?" I finished folding a shirt. "I am. To exclude you and Peter." She laughed, short and bitter. "After everything we've done for you?" Now I looked at her. "You didn't come to your father's funeral." The daughter's confrontation immediately centers on material loss, missing the profound emotional transgression at the heart of the conflict. "You didn't send flowers. You didn't call. You had an appointment." "Yes," I cut her off. "Your nails." And then brunch. I saw the photos. She didn't deny it. "You want to talk about what you've done for me?" I continued. "You sent me lists of bills and I paid them. That's what mothers do. And I did it for years. Your father built this home. He taught you respect is measured in actions, and you couldn't give him 2 hours." She stared at the floor. "So you're cutting us out." Just like that. The mother articulates her lifetime of support and reframes the conflict around the irreplaceable value of presence versus financial aid. "Not just like that," I said. "I spent 20 years giving without receiving. I buried my husband alone. That's a lifetime, Celia." She folded her arms. "You're punishing us." "No, I'm freeing myself. I'm giving everything to Ethan." She laughed, a high, sharp sound. "He's a kid. What does he know about responsibility?" "He knows how to show up," I said. The thick silence that followed was broken when she picked up her bag. "Well," she said, putting on her sunglasses, "I hope this makes you feel powerful." "No," I said calmly. "It makes me feel peaceful." The confrontation concludes with the mother achieving a state of peace, while the daughter remains entrenched in her perception of unfair punishment. Peter came the next day with his wife, Meredith. He knocked politely. They kept their coats on. "I heard from Celia," he began, "and from Ethan. I imagine you did." He cleared his throat. "There's been some confusion." Meredith spoke, her diamonds glittering. "We understand you're upset, May. But let's be reasonable. Ethan is a child. He could be manipulated." I raised an eyebrow. "By whom?" Peter tried again. "Mom, I know I've disappointed you, but this is a bit extreme." "What's extreme?" I said softly, "is abandoning your father." The son's visit, accompanied by his wife, introduces a more calculated opposition, focusing on practicality rather than remorse. "What's extreme is treating the people who raised you as disposable." He swallowed hard. "So you're just cutting us off." "You cut yourselves off. I'm just acknowledging the fact." Meredith stood. "This could get complicated legally." "It won't," I said, meeting her gaze. "The paperwork is clean. My lawyer is good." Peter looked older, hollow. "I thought you forgave people." "I do," I said, "but forgiveness doesn't mean access." They didn't argue further. After they left, I felt a tremor in my hands. Not fear or doubt, but release. The mother differentiates between forgiveness and consequences, asserting her boundaries with finality and experiencing a profound sense of liberation. At the bank, Mr. Jansen was all sharp professionalism. "You've made significant changes," he noted, reviewing the documents. "I'm a significant woman," I replied. I leaned forward. "I want safeguards, Richard. Ironclad. No appeals in 5 years when they realize what they've lost." We structured the trust to be irrevocable, disbursements controlled for education and housing until Ethan turned 30. "You understand this can't be undone easily," he said. "I don't want it undone," I assured him. Signing the papers felt like building a quiet, strong boundary that would not bend. The legal formalities finalize her decision, transforming emotional resolve into a protected, unassailable legal reality. My neighbor, Lorraine, visited that evening with a tin of shortbread. "I saw Peter's car," she said. "Did he bring flowers or excuses?" "Neither." He brought his wife in a suit. She nodded, a world of judgment in that single gesture. I told her everything. She let out a long breath. About damn time? I've watched you chase their approval for years. I kept thinking, she'll snap one day. Thank God you finally did. I didn't snap. I corrected her. I peeled back everything that wasn't love. She smiled. Better phrased. The neighbor provides external validation and social support, confirming the righteousness of the protagonist's difficult decision. We talked of gardens and squirrels. Before she left, she said, "You're not cruel, May. They'll say you are. But they won't say you were the one who kept them afloat, even when you were drowning." After she left, I found an old letter from George from a business trip. "May, this house is never empty with you in it," he wrote. "You are the roof, the floorboards, and the lock on the door. Even when it feels like no one sees you, I do." I read it 3 times. The house was quiet, but not empty. Not anymore. The discovery of George's letter provides a deep emotional anchor, affirming her worth and filling the silence with his enduring love. I started taking walks for myself, not for errands. I wore George's old windbreaker and walked the familiar streets. At the park, I sat on a bench. A stranger sat beside me, and we shared a brief, honest conversation about our daughters. It was unimportant and everything at once. That night, I made a proper dinner for one, set the table with good dishes, and lit a candle. I ate alone, but not lonely. There is a difference. Afterward, I even danced in the living room, barefoot, to a scratchy old record. The protagonist actively reclaims her life and finds joy in solitude, symbolizing her complete emotional independence. While cleaning the fireplace, I found a note tucked in the kindling in George's handwriting. "Keep dancing, even if it's just in the kitchen. The world will try to make you forget who you are. Don't let it." He had known. He left this message like a trail marker for me. I sat back, covered in dust, tears in my eyes. The hearth wasn't empty, I realized. It was waiting. That night, I slept a good, earned tiredness, the kind that comes after you've reclaimed your own name. George's hidden note acts as a final blessing, confirming that her journey of self-reclamation is what he always wanted for her. Ethan and I made pancakes together one morning. He talked of turning the house into a space for others, a garden workshop. I felt a soft, patient hope bloom within me. He fixed the porch railing, and we planned a spring garden. We filled the day with the small, necessary things that build a life. The first snow fell, a whisper of change. I watched Ethan work, mumbling like his grandfather. The weight I had carried for decades was gone, replaced by space. I had made room for something new, something he would build. I had finally come home to myself. The story ends on a note of renewal and intergenerational legacy, with peace and purpose replacing grief and obligation.